or right on the money. Nonetheless, I appreciate the participation. But, so according to Russell Wilson, Cam Chancellor, Tyler Lockett, and a whole bunch of other Seattle Seahawks, the Vikings never had a chance in this game anyway because, they were playing against the Seattle Seahawks and God, because the Seahawks are better human beings and better Christians than the Minnesota Vikings and their fans, and thus, and the results of this game, these football games, are so important to the well-being of humanity and our planet, that God is directly intervening to make sure that his Seattle Seahawks, in fact, win these games. So, what can you do? I mean, that's a tough mountain to overcome. But anyway, all right. So, I think that's the majority of the points that I wanted to get to from specifically this one game before we break it down, explain it, and then move on to what the future has in store for the Vikings. And then getting back to the NFL League playoffs. Going to be a long episode this week. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Alright, so as many of you know, regular listeners know, when I break down the Vikings film, I have a nice, cute little Minnesota referenced name that I refer to it as, and that is the Purple Vein. We even came up with the idea of having a, custom theme song every week for the Purple Vein segment, and while this will be the last time that I get to sing it for a while, rest assured it will return next year when the Vikings do as well. So here we are, getting into our Vikings film with our last rendition for this season of our popular segment song, Purple Vein. Here we go. This past Sunday was the ultimate sorrow. The kicker drove a half of the state insane. We can't win in the playoffs, but we're still division champions. We'll hope for better We'll hope for better luck next year when we're talking to Purple Vein. Purple Vein, Purple Vein, yeah! Woo, I messed it up, awesome. It's been perfect all year. And then, of course, just like the Vikings, I missed the gimme. I can't close it. I can get there, I can look good doing it, but then I just can't close. Very fitting. Very, very fitting. But alas, let us waste no more time, no more tomfoolery, no more dilly-dallying. And let us get to the film breakdown. Here we go. So, we start, again, this is the film breakdown of the Minnesota Vikings versus the Seattle Seahawks, as done by yours truly. I rewatch every play of the game, some repeatedly, to really, figure out exactly what happened on all of it. I award pluses and I award minuses. Not every single player on every play will get a plus or a minus, only when they do their job particularly well or particularly bad and it impacts the play. Plays that are huge and that have a major impact on the game, or could have and should have had a major impact on the game, are circled with emphasis. So I will point that out as well. But we start every film review with the refs. That's right. I single out not only just the players, but I do the refs, I do the special teams, I do head coach Zimmer, who is also the defensive coordinator, and I do Norv Turner, the offensive play calling, as well. So we start with the refs, and the refs were not very good. They only made one good call that was difficult, I felt, throughout the course of the game, and got 6 wrong, 2 of which were very big against the Vikings. So you get the refs with a -5. No big surprise there. Even though the Vikes are one of the least penalized teams in the NFL, the refs still do not ever give them the benefit of the doubt, and because they're the Minnesota franchise, it just seems like, they will always find ways to, whenever it's a your word versus theirs, the Vikings are the guy who got pulled over and the other team is the police officer. It's just, that's what it feels like. But the refs were a -5 on this game. And I want to say the last time we played Seattle, they handcuffed our hands pretty good that time as well, too, doing like a -8 or a -10. Then we move on to special teams. Special teams, for the most part, were pretty good. They were 5 over 2 as a unit. That's mostly the coverage and blocking and stuff like that. Or just the overall result of the play as well. But so they were 5 over 2 with one, fairly good, significant play. Yes, that would have been the Adam Thielen, whatever the heck it was. Yeah. But anyway, I watched a lot of game film last night. It's hard to remember exactly every single play in the order of it. That's why I write these things down, make these little markings here in my notebook. But so special teams as a unit were decent. Normally we would go to Blair Walsh next. Let's just keep doing it normal. Blair Walsh finished this film grade of this game with a 6 over 1. 6 positives to 1 minus, a +5. One big epic, the 1 minus was big and epic. But he had the huge make, the field goal that put us up by 2 scores, 9-0. Was a very big, difficult kick that he clutchly crushed. So, other than the one play, he was your offensive MVP of the game as we go through the rest of these numbers here in all reality. Jeff Locke, your punter / kick holder, on the other hand, a different story. 3 positives to 4 minuses. And, of course, one of those minuses being epically huge and impactful on that last field goal attempt as well. Moving on to the coaching staff. Mike Zimmer, both head coaching and defensive coordinating, called a really good game, especially in the first half. First half is just filled with pluses, a minus here, a minus there. Second half, it did get a little more evened out. On Zimmer's front, he had one big, positive impact calling, as well as one big positive negative impact coaching decision as well. But he finished, so he finished with a +1 and a -1 on impact grading. Finished an overall grading of a 14 over 9 +5. That's very good from your head coach and defensive coordinator. Then we move on to Norv Turner, and now I take back a little bit of what I said on Facebook, countering the person's Norv Turner comment. Norv Turner, for the record, he called a game that was both philosophically sound and necessary for the conditions of the game and who we were competing against, and that was evident in the offensive statistics on both sides, for both teams, due to the horrible weather conditions in part, as well as the incredible defenses on both sides. And it was a good enough game plan offensively to win us the game. We had 2 opportunities to win the game when we had the 9-point lead, the 9-0 lead, and then again at the end when we could have kicked the game-winning field goal, but missed it. Well, we did attempt to kick it, but we didn't make it. But as I rewatched the film, I noticed that Norv Turner was actually calling a very bad game. Or there was a lot of flaws with his play calling. And like I said, it wasn't in philosophy. It wasn't in how much we're running versus how much we're passing, and that's where I still stand my ground. It had nothing to do with predictability, and that's what all the fans complain about, is because that's all they can understand of offensive play calling is run or pass, and then predictability of it. Well, they're going to run. Oh, see, they ran. Oh, they're going to run. Oh, see, they ran. Stuff. That wasn't the problems. The problems from the play calling standpoint offensively was just a horribly flawed blocking scheme, both running and passing. It made no sense, and we'll discuss those weaknesses a little bit more detail as we go on as well. But so back to Norv. Ultimately, when I graded out his film, looking back at it, first glance, I didn't think it was that bad, because like I said, we had 2 opportunities to win the game. We controlled the time of possession crazy, like super good. you know. But our inability to score touchdowns when we have the scoring opportunity and settling only for field goals, it's killed us all year. And it really bit us in the butts again this last week, as well as, like I said, just flawed blocking schemes that resulted in, difficulty all game running and passing the ball, gaining yards offensively. So Norv Turner finishes a 14 over 18 minus 4. That can't happen. Zimmer was a plus 5. Turner was a minus 4. A 9-point difference from how good Norv Turner did as opposed to how actually good Mike Zimmer did. So there's your coaching breakdown. That makes the coaches together a combined plus 1 of 28 over 27. That's not good enough to beat the two-time back-to-back defending NFC Conference champions. Moving on then to another one of the big weaknesses, glaring, big impacts negatively on the outcome of the game as I rewatched the film, and that would be the offensive line. Now, I grade them out both individually and as a unit, because sometimes you just got to give the credit of the play or the blame on the play to the whole, collective offensive line, not just one or two guys. So as a unit, they were 18 over 3. They've been over 20 in the pluses the last several times, and it's rare that there's a minus for the team offensive line. Generally, those are individual statistics, the way I grade film. So an 18 over 3 plus 15 is actually not very good right out of the gate from the offensive line. They did have one big bad play as well in there. And then individually, it was ugly for everyone that wasn't named Joe Bacon Double Cheeseburger at playing center. Big reason for that was Michael Bennett, defensive end for the Seattle Seahawks, just ate us up all game. First half, he was on the left side, or the Vikings, what would be our left tackle and our left guard. He was on the left side for the first half. Second half, they switched him over to the right side. And that's why, going up against the right guard and right tackle. And that's why when I looked through my film review, all the minuses for Khalil and Fusco are in the first half pretty much, and most of the minuses for Harris and Clemmings are in the second half, all because of Bennett. But Khalil finished with a 1 positive over 5 negative. Fusco finished with a 1 positive over 3 negative, so actually a better game than usual for Fusco. Still not great, but better than usual. Joe Berger was just a plus 1 positive play, no minuses whatsoever, so a great game from our center, as has been the norm all season. Mike Harris, right guard, was a 1 over 5, and Clemmings was a 1 over 5. So Harris, Clemmings, Khalil, all minus 4, 1 over 5. Awful. So our offensive line rating, we get an 18 over 3 team-wise, combined with a 5 over 18 individually, gives us a 23 over 21 plus 2 with one really big impactful error in there as well. So not a good performance at all from the offensive line thus far in our reviews. Not a good performance at all from our offensive coordinator in these reviews, and the refs are making it harder than needed to be as well. Finishing up on the offense, Teddy actually had a really good game. Just overall, he was a 16 positives over 6 negatives, a plus 10 rating from your quarterback. That is fantastic. However, the only impactful plays he had that were, circled as big plays in the game, 2 of those were negative plays. And only one of those was a positive, his final pass completion to Kyle Rudolph on what should have been and could have been the game-winning drive. Moving on from there, our running backs, AP actually, in my opinion, especially in the first half, ran really well. There just wasn't anything there. But then in the second half, there was 1 or 2 times, definitely one time for sure, where he had a touchdown. And another time where I want to say he had a really big game. And he missed the holes. He spent way too much of the game just trying to hit the hole as hard as possible, not running patiently, not appropriately reading his blocks, and just trying to make things happen off of brute athleticism. That's where he erred in the game. And if you want to, so AP's final numbers were 15 over 7 plus 8, so good overall. But he had